How's it going, guys? Welcome back to episode number 19 of the Flight Time podcast. And finally, Ken and I have something new to talk about, a brand new drone, the Skydio 2. And I think it looks like a great successor to the Skydio R1. I never got a chance to fly it. So today in the podcast, what we want to do is sit down, talk a little bit about it. And I think that Ken and I are really excited because usually we're trying to pick topics out of like a hat, like we're randomly selecting topics, but this time we have something that's a really great solid topic to talk about.
I agree. This is what we've been waiting for. You know, this is the month though for tech. They call this Techtober. You know, all the YouTube guys that deal with tech, we all call this Techtober. But this has been a really exciting month, and we actually got a double whammy the other day. They announced the Skydio 2. They announced the GoPro Hero 8 Black, but obviously I think the star of the week is got to be the Skydio. This thing looks absolutely amazing, and we've been talking about the last couple of podcasts how we've wanted an American drone manufacturer to step up and be able to compete with DJI, and here we go. Skydio's up to bat.
So here's the thing, right? And I think that everybody was talking about this in the beginning. When the Skydio 2 rumors were coming out, it was like, all right, will the Skydio 2 kind of be like the R1 or we didn't even know it was the Skydio 2 yet, but this new drone from Skydio, is this going to be like the first drone where we didn't get a remote controller? Is it going to be crazy expensive? What are the specs going to be like? And I think that Skydio kind of delivered to please both groups. People who owned the first Skydio and, you know, they love it for the tracking features and all of the different sensors, but they're also appealing to people who just want to fly the drone. So they've come out with the controller for it, and funny enough, it's the Parrot controller for the Anafi, which
they partnered with Parrot directly to handle the hardware, which I'm not mad at all about that controller. I like that controller.
I'm not mad either. I think sometimes it's a little bit too small, but I just wonder how like the talk went over. Like how did they approach Parrot? What did they say? Were they like, hey, can we use your remote controller? Like it just doesn't make sense to me.
It's probably one of those things where it's like, you know, you have two potentially great companies, and I wish they were a little bit more public about that partnership, like it was part of the talk track, because how cool is that though to see, you know, a French drone manufacturer and a US manufacturer sort of partnering up to make a product or lend technology where maybe the other one falls short in.
Yeah.
You know, and I know some people were like, they were hoping that possibly if they had an Anafi already, they can, you know, flash the controller. And I asked Skydio, and they flat out said, no, it's not going to be possible, that there's proprietary technology in their controller, even though it's the same body, the same chassis design, that is going to limit it from being able to work with one or the other. So
yeah, and it makes sense. So I, you know, with my reviews, whenever like I review a drone, I always try to break it down into different categories, and we can by no means say that this is like a review of the Skydio 2 because we both don't have it. But I kind of want to break down some of the different things about this drone. The first being the design. What do you think of the design of this drone?
You know, the design is a little shocking. I know we were talking a couple of days ago, and I think I mentioned, because we had briefly touched on this, and I said I'm afraid that they're going to let us down. And this was before we really got a chance to see the design. Now we can only sort of reference at the time what the R1 was, and I was not a fan of that. But you know, after seeing this design of the 2, I'm okay with the fact that it doesn't fold. It looks very durable.
Yes.
It's not a boring design. You know, when you think about the Mavic, you think about the Evo, or even the Anafi, they all fold in. Even the unique foldable drones, they all sort of have that same baseline characteristic that all started with the Mavic.
Yes.
But the 2 doesn't look like any of those things, and those inverted front props are so interesting, and it looks like this drone is just designed to fall in your hand.
Yeah, it is so badass. I don't know what the proper term for it is. What would you call
like
it?
A stealth fighter, man. Like,
you know, what would you call the props that are underneath of the arms? Like underslung props? I don't even know.
I call them freaking awesome. They look amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they look awesome.
I mean, this thing can dive. I don't know if you saw any videos or did any, watch any of the real to life footage from people that already have this in their hands. This thing can dive similar to your Inspire, which I don't know if really? I don't know if that's attributed to the fact of the way they position those props, but I saw this thing diving downward, and I was like, okay, that's really impressive. Well, the whole thing is just impressive.
In theory, a drone should be able to dive down pretty fast. It's just all about how
should be able to.
Yeah, it's all about how fast it can recover itself, because if you're diving down, as I know with my Inspire too, as you're diving down and you're going at 20 miles an hour, it'll probably take about 50 or 60 feet until it finally comes to a stop. I'm looking here, the top speed is 36 miles an hour in the fully autonomous mode. I'm not seeing like a top speed out of that, so I wonder what the top speed is that you'll be able to hit with it.
The reality is I'm sure they can tweak that though.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when you think about like when the Evo first came out, its top speed was like 35 miles an hour. There was no ludicrous mode. And then with the firmware update, they updated it. Next thing you know, we got 46 miles an hour out of this thing, and it's blazing fast. So
yeah,
obviously it's going to take a good hit on the battery life. This thing comes with a 23-minute flight time.
I think that's great. I think that 23 minutes too. Look, 30 minutes is awesome. I think that with my Inspire 2, the way that I fly that thing, I probably get like 15 minutes out of it. So
how often are you sitting there shooting? You know what I mean? Like, you're not always like, we talk about how we like to shoot to edit and that we're shooting shorter clips. My finger's not always on the record button, and some people can argue, oh, you're going to miss something. I don't think that way. I like to make my workflow easier in the post. So, I mean, reality, if I can get 17 or even 15 minutes, that's a long time in the air.
I know, and you know how I love to be risky with my drone shots and get really close to things, and that's one thing I really can't wait to do with this drone is really push it to its limits.
I said to you, the first thing I said to you when the pre-order went, like I literally, as soon as it went live, I had my credit card, I was like, I didn't even care. I mean, they could have charged me at all 1, 2, 3, and I would have been totally okay because I was so excited after watching this video. I ordered it, and I said to you, we're going back to Croton. We're going back to Croton.
Well, I think out of all of the marketing material that they put out there, they literally put a side-by-side comparison on their website. I'm watching it here on loop of the Skydio 2 and the DJI Mavic 2 side-by-side trying to follow a guy on an ATV through the woods. And on the very first obstacle, the Mavic just totally stops. It totally comes to a full-on stop. It doesn't know what it's doing. It pretty much shit its pants, and the Skydio 2 is just buzzing along following him. Now, here's the thing. This video is not in any way cinematic. You can use this drone for cinematics, and they show that on the webpage a little bit lower down. So when you're actually controlling it with the controller, you're going to be able to get some really great shots. But in the fully 100%. Autonomous mode, it's a little bit jerky. But I mean, look, what more can you ask? Because this drone is doing something that really no other company is able to do.
So I think, and I've gotten mixed reviews. Did a video on it talking about it, how excited I was, and how it was probably the fastest I've ever ordered a drone, which is true, because when we were at the Mavic 2 event, that was probably the first fastest time I've ever pre-ordered a drone, but that was only because we were trying to beat out everybody else to get good shipping times. But as soon as I saw the link, I clicked it. Like after the first 10 seconds of watching the video on this, I was amazed.
Yeah.
And I'm reading some of these comments, and people tend to believe that this is just a follow me drone, and that's not what this is anymore. It's capable of doing that. It's definitely capable, and that's probably why we're seeing a lot of the people who are reviewing it now, they have like a lot of like motorcycle channels or follow me type of action sports where they're demoing that type of technology, because obviously that's its highlight feature. Secondary would be the fact that you're going to be the pilot in command, and obviously we'll have to wait until it gets into people's hands like ours to really put it through its paces. But I think they've been really realistic with it. Even the first generation, it was very realistic as to what it can do. Like I don't think there's any like white lies. They've been very forthcoming, and I mean, looking at the footage, what do you think of that camera though? Because obviously you buy a drone, you're really wanting good image out of it. What do you think of the camera?
from what I'm seeing, it looks all right. Like, are you going to shoot a movie with this thing? No, but you're going to be able to take some really great clips to put online with it. And at the end of the day, that's what I use my drones for. I consider myself like a glorified drone cinematographer or whatever, right? But at the end of the day, these clips are going on YouTube, and I think that the video files, the videos at least that I'm looking at, are fine. And dude, I'm looking at it and I'm just smiling so big. Like, I feel like such an idiot. Like, I'm looking at these pictures of it and it's just so awesome.
It is.
I love the gimbal design. I love those props on the bottom. It looks like the battery underneath almost acts as like a grip, so you hold it and then the drone flies out of your hand. There's one thing that was a little bit misleading. It says on here, almost right at the top, it says 45 megapixels. And when I first saw that, I'm like, oh my God.
The obstacle avoidance combined.
This drone has a 45 megapixel camera, but at the end of the day, it's 45 megapixels of like obstacle avoidance cameras. What does it say here? It says utilizing 45 megapixels of visual sensing from 6 200-degree color cameras, Skydio 2 can see everything in every direction with unprecedented resolution and clarity. This is the foundation.
You know how they're achieving
foot.
this process and power is with that new NVIDIA GPU that they're rocking. 256 cores. 256 cores in this, and it's capable of 1.3 trillion operations a second. Just let that sit in your mind. 1.3 trillion operations per second. I mean, that's just insane. I mean, it's moving faster than the human mind. Which I know it sounds like people are like because people are like, oh, you guys are putting the cart before the horse. You don't have it in your hand. But you know what's brilliant about this whole marketing strategy that they've used is that they've literally given these drones almost strategically to people who don't know anything about a drone. And I find that impressive. Am I a little salty about it? Maybe a little bit. But I'm not mad about it because you've given it to people who are just sometimes careless. They don't know the things that we know. And if it's going to wreck, it's going to wreck. And they have a policy, they have a warranty about actually crashing as well, which is incredible.
I think that was probably your favorite thing about the whole entire thing is that they have that crash policy.
Dude, I mean, where are you ever going to find? You're just not going to find that. And what's cool about it, and people are like, well, this is not going to make you a better pilot. It's going to give you the illusion of being a better pilot. Let me tell you, YouTube is all an illusion. You know, everything you see, you don't see all the pieces of the puzzle that we film and put together. Nobody sees the scrap edits and all the cuts that we do. I mean, you know, we go out and film, we may be in the air 2.5 hours, all for what, 3 minutes of flight?
Yeah, it's true.
You know, and if this can get me anywhere close to a perfect 2 minutes so I can stitch footage and make it work, I'm all about that. I'm all about that type of I'm all about content over product.
Yeah, so it's and here's another thing too that everybody's probably going to love is that it's got 60 frames per second. So
love it.
You know,
I love it. Slowing down.
That's awesome because this drone is being used for action. So you're going to want to potentially slow your footage down. So that's obviously good. It's got 100 megabits per second. That's its bit rate. Now, what do you think of this beacon? Like the beacon that it comes with.
It reminds me of Unique's old system they had on the first Typhoon H with RealSense. They had a beacon similar to this. I mean, almost identical. I think it's cool because it's true. If you're going through the woods and the cameras lose sight of you, now it can still figure out where your positioning is. I think it's genius because it gives you options. Okay, what type of person are you? Do you want to be tracked? Do you want to fly the drone? Honestly, I want it all. Give it all.
Yeah,
you know, I want the whole thing.
I want to correct myself. I said that it comes with. It doesn't come with. You've got to buy the remote and the beacon separate.
But you can fly this whether you buy the controller or the beacon or not, or neither. You can just connect your smartphone. It'll do the same thing the first version, the Skydio 1 did, and that's all well and good. But obviously, you know, most of us want to fly far. 3.5 kilometer range, which I think is more than adequate. We talk about range all the time and how it's not really as important as it once was.
Yeah, and that's true. And with a drone that's going to be near you most of the time, look, I think that's totally fine. Probably the biggest thing here is the price. it's only $1,000, which is insane.
Well, we say only, and to many they're gonna be like, you guys say $999 is like it's nothing. And you know, the reality is when we look around at all the drones that are being released and the new Mavic line, well, I guess you can see what buying an American-made product that doesn't have any tariffs can do for you. Like this is built and sold here, you know, and the first batch of these orders are already sold out. So if you waited, you were hemming and hawing about this. Well, now you're not going to ship till January. Now, could there be a shot that we get these and they fall flat on their face and we're all sitting like, oh crap? I just don't think so. I think these guys have sat around for almost 2 years now since the unveiling of the first version and really have thought about what they needed to do. Because you and I have talked about Skydio before, and that we thought they should sell their technology to another drone manufacturer. And I'm actually today, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, shit, I'm really glad they didn't do that, because we wouldn't be able to have this.
So am I. I'm actually sitting here looking at some photos of the Skydio R1, which again, the reason that I said the price is great and it only comes in at $1,000 is because that first drone was $2,000. And
which is insane.
With this drone, it's kind of like a blocky design. It's got these like propeller guards around the outside, and you know what? When I look at the propeller guards and how they're built into the drone, it's almost like in my mind subconsciously, like, okay, this drone says that it can avoid any obstacle, but it has those propeller guards as a safeguard. But this drone doesn't have any propeller guards, which says to me that they've definitely improved their software and they don't need to have that fallback option.
And the hardware, the AI that they have now is so much more superior to the first generation, which I think that's really important, is the new software and the fact that they've been able to fine tune their algorithms to make this thing smarter, more intelligent. And the fact that they were able to do this with less sensors is really impressive. And when this thing was going through the woods, there was like wires and tree branches, and there's a safety zone that this drone says, okay, we see this obstacle here, we're going to keep ourselves at a safe distance just to avoid anything surrounding. So it has like this invincible barrier, but it can also fly through things. I don't know if you saw the bridge. It went through a tow truck. So I mean, it's incredible that it can sense, you know, where its pass-through points are, which I think is tremendous.
Well, so I wanted to do something like a little test here. I'm looking at the Mavic 2 Pro battery. It is 3,850 milliamp hours. Do you know how big the battery capacity of the Skydio's battery is?
I'm gonna probably guess it's probably somewhere in the lines of like 4,600 milliamps.
Dude, it's... Oh, wait. Wait 1 second. Okay. I'm looking here, and I was accidentally looking at the Skydio beacon.
Oh,
and
okay.
it was only 1,460 milliamp hours. And I'm thinking to myself, how can they squeeze that much flight time out of a battery that has such a small capacity? But the capacity is 4,200.
Okay.
It's 4,280 milliamp hours.
I was pretty close.
Dude, I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, there's no way it can only be 1,500 milliamp hours.
You know, in looking at those side-by-side comparisons, too, of the Skydio and the Mavic, the camera, the HDR is just so good, man.
Okay, look, hold on. I'm not going to get too hyped up over that because the Anafi has HDR too, and you may as well not even have it on.
Okay, so thinking about the HDR, though, the Anafi doesn't have 60 frames per second, which will let you increase that shutter and let you do specifics that can sort of dilute some of the sun. I noticed that, you know, with 60 frames per second. I mean, that's sort of like why I shoot with it with the Evo, because I don't have an aperture. I don't know, man. I think, too, the processor... honestly, HDR is only as good as the processing unit that you have. You look at our cameras, when they can shoot HLG, which is basically HDR video, they can only do that because of the processor. Yeah. So, I mean, that says a lot with this. I think the whole package of this is sort of cool. And I think one of the most interesting things of all this is they're also advertising this beyond for consumers. They're also advertising this for commercial work, which I find interesting. Yeah,
it is interesting. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the videos, like the sample shots that they've provided, and it looks great, man. The camera looks awesome. There's no distortion.
It just doesn't look. It doesn't look GoPro-y. I mean, and if it sounds like, I mean, I'm sure people are like, oh, everybody just needs to settle down. Dude, I've waited a whole year and a half for a new drone release.
I know.
Don't tell me to settle down. I'm going to be as excited as my pockets can handle, and I think that's the thing. Like, a lot of times people, like, with the new drone release like this, people are like, get all bent out of shape about it. And you can already see it in comments of videos as you scroll in. Reality is, nobody's telling anybody to buy this. If you didn't pre-order now, don't worry about it. Wait until you see what comes of this as it starts, trickling down into people's hands. But this is the first sort of like drone that I've ever seen for consumers, but they've also spun an enterprise side of this, which is pretty cool. And Drone Deploy is partnered with them as well, which is a first.
That's interesting. And what do you mean it's a first?
Well, it's a first that somebody outside of DJI is going to have proprietary access to Drone Deploy's technologies.
Yes, it's true, because if you go and you try to fly, or if you try to download the Drone Deploy app, you'll notice that it says mapping for DJI. Like
right.
within the title of the app, it says that. I'm actually watching the videos now. I hadn't seen these before about the first responders and for construction. I just wonder, I mean, okay, being able to map with it would be awesome, but you're really going to want a global shutter, or you're going to want a mechanical shutter.
Sure,
so,
but again, we look at the processing power that this has, and I'm just thinking now, like, I'm looking at like my iPhone for matter, and I don't know if you've seen any of that deep fusion action, what AI is capable of doing and how it can manipulate pixels.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty darn incredible. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see as far as that goes. But I'm looking at the shot where it's flying straight forward and looking at the battery. I know some people fear, because there's no landing gear on this, that you would potentially nick your hand trying to land this.
Yeah.
But it looks like that battery is pretty far down. Like, they've designed it to where you're just going to be able to can catch this, is what it looks like.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sitting here and I'm watching this video, and you get down and you kind of see what went into making Skydio, like the drones, and they're flying around this fixed wing aircraft in a parking garage, and it's avoiding obstacles. This is incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. Well, these guys, these are all MIT graduates. They're some of the brightest minds in the country as far as software and hardware engineers go. I mean, they've really, really done phenomenal. I mean, if you look at this and like you think about like Tesla now, this technology, it's time. 2020 is fast approaching. It's time for this. Like, it's cool. It's been so cool to be able to manually fly things and to have obstacle avoidance. Another cool thing, if you think about all this is, so this thing is so great at, sensing obstacles, and people are so concerned about mid-air collisions with planes and stuff. What if this thing's capable of sensing information like that and avoiding a collision with a plane? How huge would that be for the industry? How big of a win would that be for
huge.
pilots? It would huge.
And here's the other thing is, if they could combine like DJI's ADS-B technology, which I know it's not proprietary, but if they could combine something like that with Skydio, it's a home run. Go ahead.
And I get it. Like, I just feel like we are gushing. We're excited about this, but I think that all these results and everything that I've seen has been real world so far. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for me, I'm gonna put my money. I'm putting my money on this, that it's gonna be a sheer win, and it's cool to finally back this as American.
I know, so am I, and I asked you what you thought of the Skydio beacon, because whenever I see things like this, like, oh, you strap it to your shoulder so it can follow you, it's kind of like a type of thing.
I don't know if I would use that as much. I think I would let it follow me with the controller or something, or just my smartphone.
Yeah, but what I wanted to say here is that the beacon actually allows you to put the drone where you want it. So like it's actually giving you some really good use. It's got a little screen on it. It says even on here it has unshakable. I don't know why they would use that word to describe this. It says unshakable GPS tracking, which means that Skydio 2 will stay with you even if it can't see you. So I mean, not only is this being used to track you, but you can set up your shot using this. You can tell the drone where you want it to be. So it's a lot more than just like a GPS module so that the drone can follow you.
I sort of can dig that, because there's situations like, I don't do action sports anymore, but I have buddies of mine that are professional BMX riders, and they always say, hey, can you film me? I'm like, you guys are flying in spots where I'm probably going to lose something. I'm not going to get any ROI on this video. Mm-hmm. And with something like this, I can sort of be with confidence and be like, yeah, you want to do a video? Fine, let's do it now. And with the beacon, I can tell it at what angle I want it to film. One of the videos that is put out, guy riding a motorcycle, he's driving his bike and he's changing the angles of which the Skydio is actually filming him in real time. So he can have it head on, he can have it to the side, he can have it to an angle, he can have it behind or just above him. So it was like an infinite amount of choices that he had available to him, which I thought was pretty impressive.
Dude, I feel so stupid just being so hyped for this drone, because just like you said,
it's cool though. It is so cool. And I'm gonna tell you right now, like, if DJI launched a Mavic Mini tomorrow, I said it in my video, if they launched a Mavic Mini tomorrow, I probably wouldn't order it. I would wait because it's just not something that's going to excite me. Would it get the clicks? Would people watch it because it's new? Yeah, of course. But it doesn't sound as exciting because I don't think that they have the technology like this that I would trust.
I don't mean to bring up any sort of speculation, but on Twitter, did you see that thing that Osita posted?
Yeah, but he's also drew, like, I've seen him draw like stuff like that before. He could be bored, he could be paid, I don't know. I mean, the guy's a little weird. He's a little touched. He needs help.
He's definitely weird. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, he released a little mock-up or whatever of what he thought is the Mavic 3. First of all, the pictures he drew are the Mavic 2. But he's saying that this drone will have always-on APAS, which APAS is...
Amazing that they'll have that after Skydio launches one, right?
I know, and look, APAS is kind of like what Skydio is doing. I totally forget what APAS stands for, but basically you put the drone in APAS, you fly forward, and the drone will move around, and it'll follow you, I guess, no matter what, or it'll continue to move forward and choose a different path. Now, here's the thing. If you turn on APAS, you're limited to a very low speed, but he's saying here it's always on. So even when flying it, this is his little description, even flying it manually, Mavic 3 still can avoid obstacles and fly around them smoothly. Want to fly in a small room or go through a hole that's slightly bigger than the Mavic itself? No problem. So yeah, it would be pretty interesting.
I think he's confused what APAS actually means though, Osita.
I know. So, I mean, look, I don't know. If they came out with this, first of all, the Mavic 2, Mavic 3.
What do you think the acronym stands for?
I know. I don't know. It's like I totally forget what APAS stands for.
I mean, I have an idea of what it stands for, but I don't know how it would really apply to a drone though.
Well, no, there's literally something that's called APAS in the drone. It's called Advanced Piloting Assistance System.
Okay, APAS. So that's different. That's different than what I thought it stood for.
Why? What'd you think?
I thought it stood for Active Pussy Attraction System.
That doesn't even make sense.
I know, but that's some reason in my mind I was like, that's what it stands for, because I digress, but I just don't see them having the technology that could be, when they first debuted APAS with the Mavic Air, that's the first time we saw something similar to this or anything like this at all. It was okay. When they showed us it was cool, but I never found myself using it because with the Mavic Air, there was times where I was near tree branches and you just get those narrows of the tree branches and the Mavic Air would sort of slow down and just come to a complete halt like we've seen in video. Or if it didn't come to a complete halt, it would nick a tree branch and it would fall to the ground, because unlike the Mavic 2 Zoom or the Mavic 2 Pro, where it has a bit of thrust that can sort of it can handle a small nick against a tree, the Mavic Air, it was going straight to the ground.
Well, I can tell you what, I have never once used APAS.
I I agree.
I'm looking. Are you familiar with Nomicam?
Nomicam? Why does that sound so familiar?
Well, I don't know if they do like image testing reviews or whatever, but it almost like kind of like it looks like they're really going into depth here about, testing the Skydio 2 camera. And just as like a conclusion, like from a snapshot, right? They're saying that the Skydio 2 has better dynamic range than the Mavic 2 Pro, the Mavic 2 Zoom, and the Mavic Air. It also says it creates less noise, and it also, or maybe that's more noise. I don't know whether or not this graph is showing more or less noise as the Skydio being, all the way up at the top. I would say it's probably less noise. It's saying that it falls just short of the Mavic 2 Pro in terms of resolution. In terms of color, it is better than the Mavic 2 Pro, yet it falls in last place for exposure. So if you want to check that out, under Skydio 2, when you get down to the camera portion, it says image quality report, and it's a PDF. You can pull it up, and there's got to be like 20 or 30 pages here.
What's your thoughts on people, speaking of camera and speaking of, exposure and whatnot, what are your thoughts on people with the claim of, it doesn't have a 1-inch sensor, can't fly at night?
First of all, the image sensing system or the obstacle avoidance wouldn't work at nighttime. Okay, or will it? I don't think it will. There's got to be a certain amount of light for these sensors to work.
I would imagine it has to be a certain amount of light, but even regardless, even with the 1-inch sensor on a drone, we've both flown both of these.
Yeah.
How much cleaning do we have to do to footage to make it usable, to make it look decent when we're flying at night?
In Final Cut Pro with their denoise tool, I literally set it to like very high, and I also bump up the sharpness right there within the plugin, and it still doesn't look all that great. Like there's no drive for me to want to fly at nighttime unless I'm shooting photos. I mean, that's pretty much all I do.
If we had the option to fly in like somewhere like, let's say Vegas, like on the Strip, that would be epic because there's a lot of light. You have enough ambient light to make it worthwhile. But unless if you're flying in a city where there's a lot of ambient light coming off buildings or street signs or whatever, there isn't a huge temptation, at least for me, to want to fly at night with even a 1-inch sensor. I don't think that's enough to tempt me to fly at night.
Well, look, I actually would highly recommend you go out and check the check out this like PDF, because it shows stills between the Skydio 2, Mavic 2 Pro, Mavic 2 Zoom, and Mavic Air. It shows a lot of testing insides with like color charts and testing out, different levels of sharpness and stuff. It says in the conclusion, Skydio 2 and the Mavic 2 Pro are the best ones of the 4 tested drones. All IQ KPIs are in good level. DJI Mavic 2 Pro has a bit of a high noise level in lab measurement, but noise is not an issue in real field use. Also, when using EV in lab, exposure and HDR test chart is good. This sounds like it's done by like a company overseas. Yeah, it's very broken English.
It's probably also something similar to like what we see for phones, how they rank the phone cameras and
like DxO Mark.
Yeah, like DxO Mark, but obviously this is looking at things more from a DSLR standpoint. So that's good to see. Here's the thing.
This is a lot of testing inside with color charts and stuff. And I'll say, man, the Skydio 2's colors are looking really, really good.
Very true to life, but like not overly saturated or vibrant, I don't think.
Yeah, but look, these are shots inside. You know that when you get it outside, it's going to be a whole different ball game. You can't test these drones inside. You just can't.
So here's something cool too. So what do you get with your Skydio when you order it? Does it come with a case? So it comes with 1 battery, 2 additional propellers, 1 of each type beyond the 4 required to fly. So you get 1 USB Type-C cable for this for charging and data transfer. You get a wall charging adapter. Comes with a convenient custom fit durable hardshell carrying case for transport. So that's cool. It comes with a case like that. You can order the beacon or the controller by itself for $149. Here's the best part of all this. So you're getting that 23 minutes of flight time. The batteries, and I'm going to use the word only because I'm excited, are only $99.
That's great. You're going to need 4 or 5.
Yeah. So, I mean, the reality is the average person who's buying one of these, yeah, the base price is $999. You're probably going to drop at least minimum, I would say, $1,300.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, man, I really wish they'd come out with some sort of charging hub, but you don't have to when it's USB-C. You can just get like a...
And that's the beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've got plugged into my wall, I've got something that allows me to plug in like 8 USB.
I'm going to tell you right now,
cables.
USB-C is genius. I recently just got a Parrot Anafi. I got the extended version, so it comes with 3 batteries.
It's nice, isn't it?
Parrot includes this like 3 USB-C, these connectors, so you can just connect it to any sort of adapter.
Yep. And
I'm driving up to North Carolina tomorrow, and I'm going to take the Anafi with me because it's just going to be the easiest thing to charge on the road. And with 3 batteries, I mean, it's a cool little drone. They also put a little adverb here, a little blip of the controller looks like a Parrot Anafi controller. What's that all about? And it's basically going into the fact that they've partnered with Parrot for our Skydio controller. And yes, it's the same hardware that comes with the Anafi. However, the controller is preloaded with Skydio software and is set up to be exclusively used with the Skydio 2, so it's not going to be compatible by any means. Which, I mean, you sort of got to anticipate that type of thing.
Yeah, it's true. I wonder if there's going to be somebody out there that's able to get in and hack it and make it so that it's usable with the Skydio 2. But look, man, at the end of the day, I don't have time to be doing that. Like, I'll just buy the remote.
I'd rather just buy the remote because you're spending $1,000. Do you really want to risk it and not get a warranty? Another cool thing they have here is, can I use ND filters on the main camera lens for the Skydio 2? And they said the bezel of the main camera was designed to support ND filters. They're working on a solution for that, and we'll hopefully have something in the near future. So that's cool.
Well, look, sort of like to wrap all of this up, right? Where do you see the Skydio 2 fitting in your kit? Because here you're saying, look, we both own a good amount of drones. Of course, we've got drone YouTube channels, so we've got to own these drones in order to test them and review them and whatever, and make videos on them.
Honestly, if the HDR is as good as it is, I'm sort of getting to the point where I used to, me, I love color. I love to color grade and do all this crazy crap. But as my business keeps expanding, I really don't have time to sit there and fiddle with color all as much as I used to do. Like, that's not important. Get in the shot the first time. Get in the right shot the first time is most important. I'm also filming, 5 or 6 houses a week. So if I can send this thing, and be able to get my shots, not have to worry about it hitting a power line or whatever in close proximity of a home, to me, that's a win. With my Mavic 2 Pro, I'm having to constantly, be careful around poles, and there's a lot of obstructions as I'm filming houses. And I think for me, I can get far more interest in angles with this. Plus, too, the gimbal goes that straight 90 degrees, which again gives you an interest in sort of almost inspire a Nafi dynamic to your shots that you just can't get with any other drone, because again, you're going to get props in your shot if you do that. So for me, it sort of fits in between the Evo and my Mavic 2 Pro. I say at this point, just because of the tracking capability in the camera, it's bumping my Evo down from my Mavic 2 Pro. It would probably be my second one. I do have questions for them about their flight restrictions. What type of flight restrictions are present? Because that's going to be a big question mark. If you're going to have anything, draconious like DJI, well then Houston, we have a problem.
Well, here's all right. So my main question was, where does the Skydio fall now? So what's your power ranking of drones?
Power ranking of my drones right now.
Wait, we really can't even say anything because we haven't even flown the drone. But hypothetically, give me your power rankings.
Power ranking right now, it's going to go Mavic 2 Pro, Autel Evo, my Phantom 4 Pro, Mavic 2 Zoom, Parrot Anafi, and then obviously, and this is before I flew it. So if I had to put it anywhere, I would put it again. It would be Mavic 2 Pro, Skydio, then Evo. As my power ranking. And the only reason why I put the Phantom so far down on the list is because I just feel like, even pinching and everything, I just feel like my Phantom is sometimes wildly uncontrollable. It's just a little too jerky for me.
Oh man, I feel so bad saying this, but my power rankings are Inspire 2, Mavic 2 Pro, Parrot and then the Phantom 4 Pro. Oh God, I feel so bad putting my Phantom 4 Pro so far down on that list because
it's just not as efficient anymore.
Oh, dude, that was my favorite drone. And, ever since, I know I talk about this all the time, and I was flying it today. Ever since I got the Inspire 2, even when you're in sport mode, everything is just so smooth. The gimbal movements, the drone itself is so smooth that you can't even replicate that with something like the Mavic 2 Pro. So when I fly the Phantom, it just feels jerky. I really prefer flying the Anafi over the Phantom because it's so much more portable. Just like you said, it charges over USB-C. But I can see that when the Skydio comes out, depending on how much I like it and how I like the image quality and blah, 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 I could see the Skydio bumping up in front of my Parrot Anafi.
I think the reality is too, and like what people need to understand too about us specifically, that's a little different from other drone channels, is we do try to fly everything, but we always look at these units as from a business perspective because we are using these for commercial applications. So if we can figure out a way to implement this to make our workflow easier or a job that we're doing easier, every single drone that we have, we can think of it as like they're different paintbrushes. And drones, even though they all fly, it's not always a one size fits all solution. I like to use my Phantom a lot for mapping now. That's where I feel like it does really well. I'll set it up, send up drone deploy, map out a property, and that does great for mapping. But then as to where I prefer my Mavic 2 Pro lately for real estate. So, it's sort of cool. What a time to be alive. That's all I got to say about that. It's just absolutely awesome. So awesome.
I know. The man, I'm really excited for the Skydio. I guess they're coming in November.
So they said it's going to start shipping in November. I wonder with the demand that they got. So they put out a thing today, depending on where you ordered. If you look at your order information, if you have a 6 in your order, you're in batch number 1 and you're guaranteed shipping for November. Now, they didn't specifically say when in November, but if you have, I think it was a 7, your shipping date is now January.
So is that the first number in the order?
That's the first number in their order of their batch for these drones. That's crazy. Cool. They already sold out. Batch 1 sold out.
Awesome. Well, I got a 6, so
I got a 6 too. So like I said,
read me the first. Don't read me the whole thing, but read me the first 4 digits.
Let me look here. Let me go to my email here. First 4 digits is 6174.
Okay, those are mine too.
Okay, so that means we are in batch number 1.
Nice, awesome.
So we will see our drones in November, and obviously, you know what? One thing I'm wondering about is if there's going to be any tax on this, because it doesn't look like there is, but I wonder if they're going to have tax.
Yeah, it's one thing that DJI doesn't do.
Yeah, so I mean, and I'm okay with paying tax. I mean, it doesn't bother. I mean, $1,000, it's sort of cool. I would love to just pay for it all now, so I don't spend the money by accident.
I know, right? Well, I was surprised when I went in there and saw that it was just a small deposit. I was actually surprised.
$100, you know what? And they'll probably, and I wouldn't worry if you have a 7, because there's going to be people that may have put their pre-order down now, but then renege and back out of it later on.
It's true.
So I mean, there may be openings where shipping times improve. I think it seems like they're wanting to under promise and over deliver on this drone.
Yeah, and I think that that's the right approach to take with pretty much anything, no matter if you're shooting for a client, if you're making YouTube videos. I think that it's always better to under promise and over deliver.
No, I agree. I agree with that. That way there's no false expectations, and I think in the end everybody's happy, because look what we've seen in the past with all the hype, and there was not really any crazy rumor videos that came out about the Skydio, and it was sort of nice. It was refreshing, because then when you saw this, you were probably like, wow, because I know I was. I remember watching this video for the first time. I was just like, holy crap, I didn't even, this was not on my radar, and I think that's the coolest thing about all this. So exciting times, man. I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you how you know this is a good drone. Lon. When Lon orders it and has nothing but good things to say about it, you got yourself a winner.
Yeah, I know. He's a big complainer.
We love Lon around here.
I I just can't even think about what it's going to do for the future of drones too.
It's going to be incredible.
Because for such a great drone to come out, and again, we haven't tested it, we haven't flown it, but for such a promising drone to come up to the plate, it's only going to push all of these other manufacturers to put something else out. Pretty much just singling out DJI.
Yeah, and we're not like we're not even harping on the fact that it's an American company. I know a lot of people too have harped on the fact that it's an American company. For me, that's not always a priority. It's cool. It's definitely a perk for this to be an American company, but it's not a priority. It's not going to be like reason number one, because if Chevy was terrible, I'm not going to buy it just because it's American. Like, I don't buy Ford because it's American. I just don't buy Ford because I don't buy Ford, you know. It's cool, but I think the fact that they've taken their time, and when you scroll through the website, there's a lot of great useful information, but to understand that their support team is in the same facility as their engineers, so their entire team is available to talk to one another. So if you have troubleshooting issues, they're going to be able to walk over to that person's desk and say, hey, you know, I've got this issue with this customer. What do I need to do? So it's a different scenario than getting bounced around like a ping pong ball through the DJI support chain.
Yeah, it's great. Again, I've got big hopes for this. I sit here and I wonder, who do you think their investors are? Do you think they have a lot of money in this?
There's got to be some crazy venture capitals. I sort of wonder if, because, you know, they did release this the same day as the GoPro Hero 8, it sort of makes me wonder if GoPro is a silent investor in their company.
They don't have any money to invest.
You never know, man. You just never know who's back in a company anymore. I mean,
and if they were investing, they wouldn't want to release two big products on the same day, because then you're stealing the limelight from each other.
Well, are you though? Are you though? Because they were both affordable product. I mean, I consider the Hero $399 this, and they also have it with 20% off right now. My brother sent me a coupon. You can get the Hero 8 20% off its retail price right now.
But then we're talking about all the attachments you probably want to buy for the Hero 8 to make it what it actually is. So I don't know.
It's just incredible, man.
Man, after the Action came out, I thought the Osmo Action was going to be so big, but action cameras are just they're kind of like a dying class of camera.
I'm gonna take. Do you use your Insta-1 360 at all?
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use my action cameras often when I'm on my kayak, and that's where I really want to take the Skydio is kayaking, because going down the Weeki Wachee River with the drone would just be epic. And I think that's going to be cool. But I use action cameras when I'm kayaking specifically, but I just never found myself using it as often. And the Osmo Action's pretty good. I'm going to take it with me this trip. I'm going to try to do like a minimal setup, you know, just like minimal, everything minimalistic. And I'm going to force myself to use the Insta-1 360 a little bit more. I feel like I haven't used it enough.
Dude, and you know what? I don't like the Verge. I think that it's just whatever. That I don't want to get into it, but The Verge did a video about the Insta360 and it was like, yeah, this is a great camera, but I just don't have a use for it. And that is such a perfect way to put it. Like, I've got it in my camera bag all the time, but when I want to shoot something, there's really never a time where I'm like, oh, let me grab my 360 camera.
Never. And I used to do a lot of 360 photos for realtors, but now they're all about the video. They don't care about the 360 photo. And another thing that I found increasingly difficult is trying to find hosting sites that aren't going to charge me an arm and a leg. So like for me, there's not a lot of ROI to do 360. I've seen a lot of people lately get those Matterports, and they do video with the Matterport, and it's horrendous.
Oh geez, I can only imagine.
It's just it's the worst thing you've ever seen, and people are paying a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, look, Skydio 2, it looks great. I feel like it was just the other day on one of our podcasts where we were like, oh, I wonder what the Skydio 2 is going to be like. And just like I said in the beginning of this podcast, I think that they really delivered a product that people who liked the first Skydio are going to enjoy using. And I also think that they released a product that people who enjoy flying drones are going to enjoy flying. So.
I agree, and I think that this is the product that they released for the people who were curious about the Skydio 1 but thought that $2,100 was too much of a risk for something that just followed you.
I agree.
So it's going to be cool. It's going to be an exciting couple of months. November it's going to be hype. I seriously, I didn't plan on going back up north, but when I get this, like I said, I want to go fly Croton. So I'm going to be coming back up there.
Good. Well, you know what? There's one thing that I really want to try. I'm going to jump on my boosted board and ride down the Schuylkill River Trail along Kelly Drive. There's a ton of trees, a ton of poles. I think right out of the box, that's the first thing I'm going to do.
You know what, man? You might as well, dude. And that whole area where we were at, where we flew that one bridge, would be just epic to do it. My only question is, how do you control how high the drone actually stands? Because if it's trying to avoid an obstacle and there's a car or something. So I have some question marks for it. But
that's true because, look, I think that with objects that are standing still, it's going to be able to avoid them very, very well. But if there's a truck coming at it really fast, I mean, it's not going to dive out of the way. So I don't know.
I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, I'm sure we're going to hear stories. I mean, I don't think the collisions that we're going to hear about with that are going to necessarily be planes. I think it's going to be, vehicles or something, somebody doing something like that. I mean, I think it's going to turn a new era in what we see from people's videos, because right now everybody's flying high and and they're flying far, but I think what we'll start to see is a trend of sort of almost FPV style videos, and by no means is this going to replace FPV. That's its own beast, but this is going to be interesting.
I wonder if they're going to have like a mode within the settings where you can make the camera like an FPV camera, or
could you imagine? Could you imagine if they somehow made an FPV mode for this? Because the Anafi has FPV goggles. And I mean, wow,
yes,
that would be incredible.
It does. And
that would be incredible.
The Mavic series and most of the DJI drones too. They've got like that follow mode where the gimbal actually follows the drone as it banks from left to right.
Man, I'm so amped.
So am I.
I would just, I wish, Skydio would have reached out to some drone related channels though and said, hey guys, we want to see what you can do with this and fly. That would have been cool to see. So that way it can give us a teaser of what this thing does with a controller, not just following somebody. Because that's where I know a lot of people have question marks of whether or not they're going to, buy this. But wow, we've got 52 minutes, man. I hope you guys have a long commute to work.
Yeah, I know. We got to jump off this podcast before we like blow Skydio anymore.
Yeah, I know. I think I just gave him a hand job and a half here.
All right, great podcast, guys.
Yeah, for sure, man.
It was actually really enjoyable talking about this topic because it's something new that we've gotten, and there's something else on the horizon, Ken, that I think we can talk about later because I think this is pretty huge, and it's that the FAA has granted approval to UPS to deliver packages.
Yes.
I think that the Skydio 2 is probably like the biggest thing to talk about, but that's something that I also want to discuss. So stay tuned next week.
I'm pretty excited about that.
If you guys stuck through this entire podcast, you're the real ones and probably the only ones that would want to hear this information. But we're going to be only doing 2 podcasts per week. I just think, we probably kind of collectively came together. 3 per week was a lot, pretty taxing on our schedule.
With you in school and me, there's just so much going on behind the scenes that to try to crank out, we can definitely commit to 2 podcasts, and I think it's just going to balance out better. Plus 2 with news being sort of slow, it lets us also combine multiple topics per episode, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So 2 episodes is going to be great. Sorry if you guys were really liking the 3, but that was killer on our schedules. But yeah, guys, Ken, anything else?
No, that's it, man. We'll see you all. We'll get one out Monday, I think. We'll squeeze one.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see you guys.
Peace.